Welcome to Session 2 on how, when, and where. Which dates are important? In this session, we will be focusing on which dates are important. By what criteria do we choose a set of dates as important? The dates around which we compose our story of the past are not important on their own. We need to remember this point very carefully. The dates around which we compose our story of the past are not important on their own. They become vital because we focus on a particular set of events as important. So, my dear students, when you're telling something, it has to be associated with some kind of incident or some kind of event which plays an important role in everyone's life. That's when the date becomes important. For example, in the histories written by the British historians in India, the rule of or the Governor General was important. These histories began with the rule of the first Governor General, Warren Hastings, and ended with the last Viceroy, Lord Mountbatten. In a separate chapter, we read about the deeds of other Hastings, Wellesley, Bentinck, Dalhousie, Canning, Lawrence, Lytton, Ripon, Curzon, Harding, and Irvine. It was seemingly never-ending succession of Governor Generals and Viceroys. All the dates in these history books were linked to these personalities, to their activities, policies, achievements. It was as if there is nothing outside their life that was important for us to know. The chronology of their lives marked the different chapters of the history of British India. When we write history or a story, we divide it into chapters. So now in this part we are discussing that is it only important with the Governor General's life that played a vital role in British India? Nothing else played vital role in India? When we divide history into chapters, it is to give each chapter some amount of coherence, some relativity. It is to tell a story in a way that makes some sense and can be in the process we focus only on those events that help us give shape to the story we are telling. So when we divide the writing of a story into chapters, we divided it into chapters. The reasons are to give some coherence, to make some sense to the individual who is reading or the people those who are reading, and also to shape the events of the storytelling process. How do we periodize them? In 1817, as you can see on the screen, James Mill, a Scottish economist and a political philosopher, published a massive 3-volume book, A History of British India, and he divided the Indian history into Hindu, Muslim, and British. So in 1817, the first massive volume book of history of India, that is British India, was written and published by James Mill, a Scottish economist and a political philosopher. He divided history into 3 periods: Hindu Indian history, Muslim Indian history, and British Indian history. Why did we try and divide it into different periods? Is it something wrong with James Mill's thought process that he divided the history into religious context? Let us check it in the next session. So in this session, we learned how can we divide the history, why the dates in the history are very, very important, how do we write a story by dividing it into number of chapters, and we also learned that who was the first one to write Indian history by the Westerners, that is James Mill, a Scottish economist and a political philosopher, as early as 1817, and he divided Indian history into Hindu history, Muslim history and British history. Let us find out, is it right or wrong, in the next session. Stay tuned. Thank you.